I have seen Mark Hofmann's beginning draft of the 116 pages.
What percentage of these modern relics that get sold do you think are actually forged?
Besides the murder, you can't help but respect it a little bit as like the OG King scammer.
Did you know that the first edition Book of Mormon addresses forgeries?
Hey guys, Cardinellis here again for Midnight Strike Through Mormons. Now, we've all seen Murder Among the Mormons on Netflix. We've all heard of Mark Hoffman and his forgeries. But did you know that he was trying to falsify the lost 116 pages of the Book of Mormon, and he had actually started doing so? In fact, there are people who have seen the beginnings of this forgery. One of these men is Reid Moon, owner of Reid Moon's Rare Books in Utah, and he's given us a tour of his personal collection of Mark Hoffman forgeries, as well as giving us a couple of tips on how to recognize a Hoffman forgery.
I never know who is going to walk in the bookstore, and occasionally people bring things in. Hey, I've got something I'm interested in selling, and this was the case.
Okay.
The guy hands me this, and I immediately recognize that this is a Kirtland Safety Society note. Back in 1837, the church issued their own. In Kirtland, they issued their own currency.
They made their own bank and started giving bank notes. Okay.
They went to Philadelphia to get the currency. But by the time they get back, their bank charter is rejected and they go, okay, we're an anti-bank. Okay. And so they would handwrite, it says the Kirtland Safety Society, they put anti-banking society. But they only did that on a few, so those are worth a lot. But it's also, they took some of these bills, brought them with them to Utah to use as early currency. Okay. But to make them effective, they were signed by Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and Newell K. Whitney. So these are highly collectible in and of themselves, but the re-signed ones are worth a lot more. But when I looked at it, I told the guy, I said, I've got good news and bad news for you.
Okay.
Good news, this is valuable. Bad news, those are Hoffman forgeries. But good news again, the fact that it's a Hoffman forgery increases the value. Because Hoffman forgeries are now collectible. Right, and I said, so it's basically a wash in value. If it was real, which it is, it's a real, but the fact that it's tied into and one of the few we absolutely know is a Hoffman forgery makes it as valuable as if it were the real thing.
So wait, so you're telling me that it's kind of like, this is like modern relic inception. You got a dream within a dream within a dream. Right. So you found a Kirtland Safety Society banknote that has Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and Newell K. Whitney's signature on it, which it drastically increases its value. But you detect that it's a Hoffman forgery, which bumps it down in value. But now Hoffman himself has become so cool that it's a wash and it goes back up in value.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then the question is, how do I know that? What is my secondary proof? With a UV light, turn out the lights and you shine it. When you shine it on iron gall ink, it's purple. But when you shine it on a Hoffman forgery, it's purple with purple haze all the way around it.
Interesting.
Because the way
But you didn't have a black light when you first saw this. How
no,
did
but
you
I
know?
can still tell because I have come across so many Hoffman forgeries in people's collections when I do appraisals. It's a telltale sign. It's unusual bleeding just because he would get the item wet and then he would use a vacuum to kind of suck his own iron gall ink, which sped up the process of aging and it's continued to age. And
so it's like a really bad tattoo in the wrong spot after you've gained weight that just kind of like inflates. And okay, interesting. Wow. Now, what's this PCGS currency like?
Well, so this is authenticated as original. There's only a couple places nationally that do that, and they do it on coins. They rate, Pokemon cards and all that. They give it a grading.
Okay. Yeah.
This is like they're authenticating that this is real, but they don't know about Hoffman forgeries. Mm. Oh, so this is a hybrid.
Interesting.
This is a real note. Hoffman did not. Now, But Hoffman did forge the early Utah currency. In fact, this is a forged with his calling card. But that he's forging Brigham Young's signature on this $3 note. Now, this is just totally fake. And my friend came in and says, I want to see how good this is. And he took it to a coin shop and they said, it's a little warm. We can maybe offer $15,000. And he goes, for a Hoffman forgery? And the guy's face went white. He did not detect that it was a Hoffman forgery.
Are there still Hoffman forgeries that are making circulations now undetected?
100%, because he didn't just stick to the early church history Mormon market. He did everybody's. In fact,
wasn't he doing founding fathers and he was tricking established esteemed professors?
Didn't want to do it. It was called the Oath of the Freeman.
Oath of the Freeman. Okay. Well, look at this. In order not to get the death penalty, he had to confess to his forgeries. And this is the list that he wrote of forgeries.
Whoa.
These are the people he forged.
Elijah Abel, David R. Edson, Thomas B. Marsh, Edward Partridge, David W.
Elijah Abel. Wow.
Wait, he was going to get the death penalty for that?
No.
For
Butch Cassidy? He forged Butch Cassidy's signature?
Yeah. Well, and then he also did the founding fathers. I mean, he did... John Adams, John Quincy Adams, Daniel Boone, Emily Dickinson. In fact, John Hancock, Andrew Jackson, Francis Scott Key, Abraham Lincoln, Jack London. There are first editions of Gone with the Jack London's book out there with Hoffman forgeries that are being traded.
Really?
Oh, these things are out there.
Wait, Jack London wrote Call of the Wild?
Call of the Wild.
What?
Yeah.
So they were going to give him the death penalty for this?
No. You are too young to remember.
No, because he bombed people.
Oh, the mailbox pipe bombs, right?
The pipe bombs. Okay. So, I mean, he's killed people, and this is Utah. They're totally going for the death penalty. But he says, hey...
Like a boss. Did you know Utah was the last state to have a firing squad? They execute... It was in the 20s or the 30s, too. This wasn't the Wild Wild West. This was straight up 20th century.
Oh, and so one of the deals was if you confess, we won't...
We'll do it. And so he's got life without parole, but...
Because he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's been in prison.
He's in the Draper, right?
No, they moved him to Gunnison after about 30 years.
That's a sad jail. That is a have you been to the Gunnison, just driven by?
No, last time I was arrested...
It is a sad gray building. It's very, very sad.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay. So
people,
would you say Mark Hoffman still gets away with it?
Oh yeah. There's still things that are out there that are just.
Do you feel like you? Okay. So you can detect these visually, basically.
I can detect some of them, but as his formula changed and he improved it, it makes it a lot harder because I've seen some later ones. That was an early one when he's still working things out.
Okay.
And just to show you, I mean, I've got a pretty serious Hoffman collection. Otherwise, I wouldn't have his driver's license.
Oh man.
What on earth?
Wow. How'd you get his driver's license?
That's what I do.
Wait, the irony of ironies would be if we could forge his signature on something and pass a forgery of Mark Hoffman's. Are there people that have forged Mark Hoffman forgeries in order to make money off that? Now there has to be somebody that did that.
This is so deep down the rabbit hole.
Okay.
Here's the thing. There are other people, I think, that were encouraged by Hoffman saying, I can do it better. And they will use the right paper. But another telltale sign is somebody came to me and said they had Hitler's Bible.
Whoa, okay.
With his book plate in it.
Okay.
And I said,
for the layman out there, a book plate is
the ownership. It'll say Ex Libris from the library of.
Okay. And that was really common.
Yeah, that was common.
Pre-war, right?
Yeah. Okay. And in a way, I mean, as crazy as Hitler was, the fact that he survived all of these assassination attempts, he says, God's protecting me.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah, I'm just saying. But I thought it was too bizarre not to look at it.
Yeah, of course.
So I told the person, send it to me on approval. They sent it to me, and I took it to my rare book guy who does my restoration and everything. Has a master's in printmaking and everything, understands all this. He looks at it like 2 seconds, goes, yeah, it's fake. And I go, whoa, what are you talking about? He goes, that book plate. He goes, he gave me, I said, I've looked at it under a magnifying glass. And he goes, that's only 10 times. You have to go 30 times. You need a jeweler's loupe. And then I looked at it and he goes, what do you see? And I said, dots. And he goes, that was printed with a dot matrix printer on old paper. And that technology was not around when Hitler was around.
So oh my gosh. So they're getting everybody.
Oh, yeah. And this stuff passes all the time. I was watching Pawn Stars on like a 70-inch TV, and somebody brought in a Honus Wagner card.
Okay.
So they brought in the Honus Wagner card, and I, all of a sudden, it's this big, and it's like, da, 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 da. And I go, oh, they're finally going to use that method of proving it scientifically that it can't be. But the guy just felt, and he goes, the paper's off, so I'm going to have to say it's not authentic. When they could have definitively said, no, that was printed on old paper using a dot matrix printer. And it's crazy how, because dot matrix printer, it shades it and everything, but you just see these.
It's like the old comic books. When you blow it up, it's all just dots.
Dot. But
so what's the trick? What is the visual cue? Like, how do you recognize a Mark Hoffman forgery when you say, I just
the first thing I look at is to see if it just has this crazy bleeding that on all of it. But I double checked. I turned down the lights, got out my UV light, like black light, solid purple, and then just purple haze all the way around it. It just definitively, it was like, yeah, that's his telltale sign.
What percentage of, I don't know what you call this, modern relic market, rare book market, what percentage of these modern relics that get sold do you think are actually forged?
Like you go on eBay, J.K. Rowling, 90%. 90%. I mean, you can go on there and just tell. But now they're getting even more sophisticated with the forgeries. Now, what she does is she puts a hologram with it. Just say, okay, I actually did this, and has a hologram that goes on with it. But people are if there's a way to make money, they figure it out. And so because she has a very tricky signature. And when you're looking at signatures, there's a difference between natural flow and tracing and stall marks while you're copying. It has to be very natural, and hers is quite unique. But then you program that into an auto pen. And then it makes it so hard to tell that I was talking to some friends of mine who have some of the biggest sellers of Harry Potter. They said they will no longer buy the last like 5 of them because the auto pen technique is so good. And the fact that it's so recent, there's no carbon dating and stuff. I mean, it's a big pen or whatever.
Yeah.
Just like, that they can't even tell.
So forgeries are getting so good that even the experts can't tell.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, last question. And you don't have to know. Well, do you have anything else that you got to show me here? Or
well, yeah. I mean, here's Mark Hoffman's first business card when he's a teenager. Mark's mint mistakes. So what he would do, he got so good, he could put mint marks on coins, and then he would send the coin to the Treasury Department saying, hey, I'm a 16-year-old amateur coin collector. Is this real? And then they would send him back a letter saying, oh, absolutely. And then he would have that letter, and then he'd go to a coin shop and take a nickel and turn it into $500 as a teenager. This is before he goes on his mission. He's doing this.
Look, besides the murder, you can't help but respect it a little bit as like the OJ King scammer. This is impressive.
Okay.
And by the way, it's good to know that in the 70s that bishops were sending crappy people out still too, not just in the 2000s when I served. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, okay, keep going.
But you remember, so a year and a half ago, Murder Among the Mormons comes out.
Yeah.
And for me, the most interesting character was Shannon Flynn, who talked like this.
Yeah.
Well, the reason he talked like that is he actually had lung cancer. People said that was a new persona he put on just for the documentary because they had older clippings of him with a normal voice.
Oh.
But as they're removing part of his lung and coming up, they clipped off one of his vocal cords.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
And he actually passed away a little over a year ago, just after because that cancer spread to his brain. And
yeah.
But I had the opportunity to spend several hours with him right here. And he says, do you want me to tell you some of the stories that didn't make it there? And I says, have a seat. And for 3 hours we talked. And he said, I only saw Mark Hoffman practice or forge a signature once. And that's when we went to New York with them. We went to, I think he said Maggiano's restaurant. And they put kind of like, it has a cloth table covering.
Uh-huh.
And then they put out like butcher paper or whatever. And they give you crayons or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says, I'm sitting there watching Hoffman, and he just went and did a perfect George Washington and a perfect Abraham Lincoln. And he says, and then I think Hoffman caught himself, tore it off, crumbled it up to where there was not going to be any evidence of it. And he just kind of dismissed it, you know. And
wow.
He said, I would be sitting with Mark Hoffman when he would get these batches of coins, and he would go get dry ice. And he says, what are you going? And he goes, you can't be too careful. There's people out there that fake these mint marks. And he goes, but I can determine if it's not, because if you put a coin on dry ice, it freezes it, and that mint mark pops off.
Whoa. Okay.
And so, I mean, that should have been in the documentary. I mean, with him, he's telling, and he just went story after story. And I said, hey, Mark, Shannon, can you humor me? And can you...
I learned that the only...
I said, tell me your most famous line from Murder Among the Mormons. And here it is. I recorded them here.
I learned that the only way to keep a secret between two people is to kill one of them.
Awesome.
That's right here in this back room.
Oh, dude, that is awesome.
I learned that the only way to keep a secret between two people is to kill one of them.
Wow, dude, that is gangsta. Whew. Okay, last question before we wrap this one up. And if you don't have an opinion on it, it's fine. But we've been getting involved in some conversations, not elevated to the status of debate yet, but I'm pretty sure it will be soon, about the happiness letter, which would get quoted a lot. Supposedly it's the letter that Joseph Smith wrote where he said, the purpose and the design of this life is to be happy and so on and so forth. But it also had to do with some justifications of polygamy that people find to be distasteful, but there's increasing and mounting evidence that John C. Bennett would have forged it back in the 1800s in order for him to justify his philandering with women that he was ultimately excommunicated for and expelled from Mormonism for. Do you have any thoughts, opinions, relics, all of the above about the possibility of that being a forgery, or of any just forgeries of antiquity in Mormon history, not just Mark Hoffman?
Did you know that the first edition Book of Mormon addresses forgeries? And it's the only, in the preface, it addresses forgeries.
Really?
As being one of the first, So
just like in the book of Deuteronomy where it does, and also when evangelicals always say, oh, nothing should be added or taken away from this book, and they're quoting the anti-forgery clause of the book of Revelation that John wrote. There's an anti-forgery clause in the first edition of Book of Mormon?
In the preface. And the preface is only in the first edition. It's removed on all other copies. And what do I have in the vault?
Yeah.
First edition.
Oh, dude, this is awesome. Oh, wow, this is great. Just keep it rolling.
Well, and if we're going to look at a first edition, let's look at Hiram Smith's first edition.
Yeah, okay. Oh, this is too cool.
Okay, so first edition, 193 years old.
Have you ever actually dropped a book and just harmed it and felt stupid?
Yeah, I have. No, I actually kicked a book. I have Houdini's oldest book on magic.
Okay.
And I pulled it out of the vault. I set it down. I forgot it was there. I turned around and kicked it, and it ripped off the front cover, like seared it. I kicked it right there. But I know the world's best book restoration people too, and it's been restored.
Okay.
Was there any curse on that?
Yeah, I was about to say.
Houdini's book. If
you haven't got any weird car accidents yet or anything like that, your house isn't on fire, right? Okay.
But okay, so there's the title page. Hiram Smith was pretty proud of his book. Hiram Smith's book right at the top.
Yeah.
But if we go right past it, here's the preface.
Okay.
And this is to the reader. Now, this to the reader was very common. William Tyndale did that in his Bible.
Yeah.
In the King James Bible, there's from the translators to the reader. So this to the reader is following a pattern that's been set on other books. And this is by the author. And the first edition does show Joseph Smith as the author.
The author, yeah.
Okay. As many false reports have been circulated concerning the following work, and also many unlawful measures taken by evil designing persons to destroy me and also the work, I would inform you that I translated by the gift and power of God and caused to be written 116 pages, the which I took from the book of Lehi, which was an account abridged from the plates of Lehi, and speaking of which, I have seen Mark Hoffman's beginning draft of the 116 pages.
So Mark Hoffman actually did
He did start. Oh, he 100% started it.
So he tried to start forging the lost 116
pages.
Because that was his big dream.
That was a big dream.
Right?
And he started that like 1980. Okay. And his college roommate, and this is when they were doing these computer analysis. And so he paid his roommate. He got index cards and he had a facsimile first edition. And every time a word appeared, he had to write it down so that he would match perfectly the cadence of the. And so I have had in my hands the index boxes, and the opening line of it is, I, Lehi, having been born into a very wealthy family with lots of gold. He's going after the whole treasure hunting, the money angle.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, and so he was an early adopter of the theory that I, Nephi, being born of goodly parents, was a reference to the ancient terminologies of wealth, not the modern terminologies of morality.
But that was how he was going to go.
Interesting.
But back to this, and he goes, the which I took from the book of Lehi, which was an account abridged from the plates of Lehi by the hand of Mormon, which said account some person or persons have stolen and kept from me, notwithstanding my utmost exertions to recover it again, and being commanded of the Lord that I should not translate the same over again, for Satan had put it into their hearts to tempt the Lord their God by altering the words. So they forged that. They took 116 pages and changed it.
Was there anybody besides Mark Hoffman that has been caught attempting to forge?
There have been several people over the years that have said, hey, I've got the 116 pages. But of course, they never show you even a fragment of it. It's just...
it's like whenever Mormon Leaks promised it was going to come out with something bombshell in the next couple of weeks, and then it never showed up.
So,
whatever. Okay.
This forgery is mentioned before you even start reading the Book of Mormon. Forgery's there.
Wow. That is incredible.